Okay, so I didn't do my video yesterday because we had a family emergency, so now I'm doing it. Sons of Judah. It came to pass at the time that Judah departed from his brothers and visited a certain Adullamite whose name was Hira. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite whose name was Shua, and he married her and went into her. So she conceived and bore a son, and he called his name She conceived again and bore a son, and she called his name Onan. And she conceived yet again and bore a son, and she called his name Shelah. He was at Chezib when she bore him. Reminds me of my baby sister. She's been having lots of babies. She got 4 babies. Then Judah took a wife for of his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord killed him. The Lord will take you out of this world. You doing the wrong thing? Okay, look at all the criminals doing the wrong thing. They get taken out, either by another criminal, or the law, or an angry parent. Who knows? But if you're doing the wrong thing, you're going to get taken out. And Judah said to Onan, "Go in to your brother's wife and marry her, and raise up an heir to your brother." But Onan knew that the heir would not be his, and it came to pass, when he went into his brother's wife, that he emitted on the ground, lest he should give an heir to his brother. And the thing which he did displeased the Lord, therefore he killed him also. So he was supposed to make a baby for, carry on the family name, and he didn't do what he was supposed to do. Then Judah said to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, "Remain a widow in your father's house till my son Shelah is grown." For he said, lest he also die like his brothers. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. In the process of time, the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. And Judah was comforted and went up to his sheep-shearers at Timnah, he and his friend Hira the Adullamite. And it was told Tamar, saying, "Look, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep." So she took off her widow's garments, covered herself with a veil, and wrapped herself, and sat in an open place, which was on the way to Timnah. For she saw that Shelah was grown, and she was not given to him as a wife. So the father-in-law didn't do what he was supposed to do. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a harlot, because she had covered her face. Back then they would, it was a shameful thing, you want to cover your face. Then he turned to her by the way and said, "Please, let me come into you," for he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. So she said, "What will you give me that you may come into me?" And he said, "I will send a young goat from the flock." So she said, "Will you give me a pledge till you send it?" And then he said, "What pledge shall I give you?" So she said, "Your signet cord and your staff that is in your hand." Then he gave them to her, and went into her, and she conceived by him. So she arose and went away, and laid aside her veil, and put on the garments of her widowhood. And Judah sent the young goat by the hand of his friend, the Adullamite, to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but he did not find her. Then he asked the men of that place, saying, "Where's the harlot who was openly by the roadside?" And they said, "There was no harlot by this place." So he returned to Judah and said, "I cannot find her." Also the men of the place said, "There was no harlot in this place." Then Judah said, "Let her take them for herself, lest we be shamed. For I sent this young goat, and you have not found her." And it came to pass, about 3 months after, that Judah was told, saying, "Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has played harlot. Furthermore, she is with the child by harlotry." So Judah said, "Bring her out and let her be burned." So he was willing to be with a harlot. But for her being a harlot, okay, he's ready to have her burned. When she was brought out, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, "By the man to whom these belong, I am with child." And she said, "Please determine whose these are, the signet and cord and staff." So Judah acknowledged them and said, "She has been more righteous than I, because I did not give her to Shelah my son." And he never knew her again. So he realized that, she was even better than him. Now it came to pass at the time for giving birth that, behold, twins were in her womb. And so it was, when she was giving birth, that the one put out his hand, and the midwife took a scarlet thread and bound it on his hand, saying, "This one came out first." Then it happened, as he drew back his hand, that the brother came out unexpectedly. And she said, "How did you break through? This breach be upon you." Therefore his name was called Perez. Afterward, his brother came out, who had the scarlet thread on his hand, and his name was called Zerah. So, back then, if you were considered a woman in Israel, you were not to be a harlot. If you were of God, you were not to be a harlot. Now, there was women in the other towns that were harlots, but it was considered a shame for, a Judah woman to be a harlot. So, now the men, I can't say the same thing for that, because they're going in to the harlot. So, but he realized that she was better than him, because he made a promise to her about giving his son, when he grew up, to her for husband, and he grew up and he didn't do that. He did not keep his word. So she's like, "All right, I got your number. I'm going to play this trick on you. It's going to happen." And she ended up getting pregnant by him. And, he realized she was acting that way because he didn't keep up his end of the bargain. So, but anyway, the thing is, what I take away from that is you got to keep your word. Because when you don't keep your word, things are going to happen. And people do act out. And people do the wrong things. I think, honestly, the appropriate thing to do is, when you grow up, get married, have a family. She was only acting out because he didn't keep his word. So, she was trying to prove a point. Him, he was just trying to be raunchy. So. But she ended up being shown righteous because she was the one that acted up for that reason. So, anyway. But, Bible doesn't hide anything. There is some raunchy stuff in there. You'd be like, what? And it is. But, because back then, if your husband died, if he had a brother, it was his responsibility to carry on that family name for the brother. And if he didn't do that, that was a big dishonor on his family name. But he didn't want to do that. So, but, so she was just doing what she thought was right in that situation. She thought, this is the only way that I'm going to be able to carry on this family name. So, anyway. But, like I say, whatever you get from it, let me know. If you get something else from it, let me know. Bye, Facebookers and YouTubers.